There is so much smoke around Deuce Knight.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's a Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate. Auburn message board legend, the Charlie 5, hanging out with us. Is Auburn in a spot to land a top 3 class? We'll touch on that in a few moments. But Charlie 5, there is so much smoke around Notre Dame quarterback commit Deuce Knight potentially flipping to the Auburn Tigers. You buy on the smoke? And if so, what does this mean for Auburn?
Yeah, there's so much smoke. You need a gas mask. I mean, it's that bad. It's that thick right now. No, I mean, I think it's legit. Look,
100%.
Auburn did a really good job. Auburn really did a good job over Big Cat weekend of stressing the need to keep this sort of under wraps a little bit until it's sort of ready. You got all the details ironed out. They did a really good job of keeping that a secret over the weekend. And then recruits couldn't keep their mouth shut, and then Deuce himself couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, he posted a picture of him in the Auburn hotel with like Auburn in the background. It's like, all right, I guess if Deuce is posting this on Instagram, we can talk about it now.
30 seconds for somebody to be like, that is an Aubie picture in the background. Like, I know where this place is. Like, it was it went. I mean, it was a poorly kept secret, but they did kind of keep it quiet for a while. But now you see different recruiting analysts. You see different guys doing interviews, recruits talking more and more and more. I think it's definitely legit.
Well, they did such a good job keeping it quiet that Notre Dame side of it, they were in denial for like a week, which is exactly what you want if you're Auburn, to not think that Deuce Knight went to Big Cat. And it's like, he's literally here. Like, he's literally here, but that's fine.
Yeah.
And to me, it's, I think it's just kind of a sign of like another reason or another data point to point to of like, it's different now. Like, what Auburn is doing right now is different than things that we've ever seen before by a head coach and by a staff.
Yeah, they have a plan, and it's not just sort of like willy-nilly, let's throw stuff up against the wall. They have a plan for each kid and how they're going to execute it and how they're going to get that kid. And this is what they've put together for Deuce. And at least as of now, it seems like sort of the train's moving down the tracks there. It's sort of moving in that direction for a possible flip here pretty soon. Some people have even said that use the word imminent. I think Jeffrey Lee from On3 used the word imminent.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not a huge dictionary guy, but I think that means it's like basically any minute now.
Yeah, it could happen. Yeah, it could happen any day. It could happen any day. Am I crazy to say it happens this week, Charlie 5?
I don't think so. I think it
does happen this week.
Yeah, Auburn, if it happens, it does happen this week. I think Auburn needs it to happen this week. Auburn is going to push for it to happen this week. And I think sort of, again, all the signs are kind of pointing to it being announced and the flip to go down sometime, maybe early part or, at least this part of at least this week in general.
Rivals has him as the number 1 quarterback in the country. ESPN has him as the number 2 quarterback in the country. How is your top or second ranked quarterback in your class rankings not a 5-star?
Well, look, Deuce, I really like Deuce as a player. I like him as an upside guy, but I think a lot of that was based off of his Elite 11 appearance because last year was kind of an up and down season for him. He had the whole transfer situation. He came back, and when he came back to Mississippi, he only completed just a little over 50% of his passes. So there is some polishing that needs to be done. Now, it seems like he has gone, just all in on working on mechanics, working on developing as a passer and not just a freakish 6'4", 200-plus pound guy that can run a 4.5. Like, it looks like he's really worked on the actual fine points of becoming, a SEC quarterback or a college quarterback. And I think recruiting analysts are starting to notice that maybe the measurables are measuring up with, possibly the skills developing as well. So I think that's probably why he's not a 5-star yet.
Sure.
But if he were to go out and complete 60+% of his passes, do a lot of the same stuff he's already done, I think he could easily be in the 5-star talk.
Yeah, which, I mean, it doesn't really matter. If you get a top 5 quarterback, a consensus top 5 quarterback in the class, it's like, whatever. We take that. Especially when the chatter from other fan bases, and maybe even some folks from within the fan base, when you're getting all of these guys added to the 2025 class, I mean, just blue chip after blue chip after blue chip. And the response is, what about the quarterback? You don't have got a quarterback yet. Well, if Auburn pulls this off and they land Deuce Knight, all of a sudden, well, you got your quarterback now.
There you go. And I think Auburn could have already had Deuce Knight in the class sometime. I think he was ready to jump on board maybe towards the, during football season of last year. But that's when the whole uncertainty about where he was going to go to school, his performance a little bit, everybody kind of slowed down. Then Notre Dame jumped on him. So there is already the groundwork there. There's already a relationship with some of the 2024 guys that he's really tight with already. So it's not a huge shock that this could be going in this direction. And I think it's going to be, it would make a huge splash, across the country. Hey, it doesn't matter what name's on your helmet, what's on your jersey. If you got somebody that Auburn wants, there's a good chance that if Hugh gets the hook sunk in, that he'll get him. He can get him. I
love so much about Deuce Knight, but my favorite thing about him, it's not the fact that he's 6'4", has a 40-inch vertical, 220 pounds. Well, I mean, it can just do anything you want physically. It's not the fact that he's a top player in Mississippi and Auburn continues to get better and better at recruiting that state. It's not that he's a top quarterback. I love that, according to several folks that I've talked to, and I think you'll agree, is he has the self-awareness where he's not like dying to start. As a true freshman, he understands that he needs to be developed. He needs to acclimate to the college game. And I love just the realness of that. I mean, so many quarterbacks, they want to come in and play. They don't want to sit at all, or they're going to transfer. That's not Deuce Knight. No. And to me, I think that is an underrated quality when talking about quarterbacks, any position, but especially quarterbacks, that we do not need to gloss over.
No, when you're talking about leadership, that's a big part of that is understanding, being patient and not being sort of selfish, and understanding I got to put in the work to get there. And you really, really want that out of your quarterback. Hey, you know what else I kind of like the lefty. I want to see a little lefty.
That's probably my least favorite thing about this.
Something about a lefty quarterback, I don't know. It just looks cooler. It looks cooler when it happens. I kind of dig that.
Yeah,
I know. I remember in college NCAA, you hated having a left-handed quarterback because you had to flip everything. The play actions that you loved didn't work the same way. Like you had to do. But man, something about seeing a lefty quarterback out there slinging it, I kind of dig.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I think that'll be a fine part of it. But we'll see. We'll see. So if this happens, what does it mean for Auburn? What does it mean for the class? Top three class is what it means. That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Charlie 5, quick question. Can you imagine wagering anywhere other than with our friends at FanDuel?
I've tried and I just can't. I can't imagine it, actually. It's impossible.
No, it's impossible. What are you doing if you're not wagering with FanDuel? They've got the best odds, lines, parlays, props, everything that you could need. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Auburn still at 7.5 wins. Charlie 5 still just chilling there at 7.5 wins. If you think it's 8-4 or better, head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the Locked On Podcast Network.
Yes.
When you look at what a potential addition to Deuce Knight could do, Charlie 5, a top 3 class for 2025 is certainly on the table.
Sure. again, kids are sort of waiting. There's some guys that are sort of waiting to see what Auburn's going to do there. And I think another part are watching to see what happens on the field. But Deuce Knight in general, I think, opens up the door that may be closed with a Caleb Cunningham. Maybe make things a little bit more interesting with Andrew Babalola, the five-star offensive tackle from Kansas. There's just so many things that the hype from adding a Deuce Knight will do. It may open a door for a kid that you probably didn't even realize you had a big shot at. That Deuce comes and says, "Hey, we need to call XYZ because they're in with me. That they'll want to come with me."
One of the big things when the news started to get up to South Bend and Notre Dame folks started talking about on their boards, one of the main arguments was, no, that doesn't make any sense. Deuce Knight was like a big part in recruiting this entire class. Why would he look elsewhere? Like, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. Who might he bring with him? Is that an option?
Yeah. I mean, well, I haven't even really looked at their commitment list, but maybe there's even some guys there at Notre Dame that may want to come. That's what I'm saying. Like there could be,
it's a top 10 class. Like, bring them on. Let's go.
Yeah. This just could open the door, not only with guys that you're already targeting, but wider, but it could also open some doors that maybe have been closed in the past. I just think Deuce Knight in general, a top 50 quarterback, a top 50 player, a top 2 quarterback, top 2 or 3 quarterback in the country is going to get people excited. It's going to fire up our class. That's another thing. I think it'll make it to where it's a lot harder to want to go flip somewhere else because you want to play. You want to be a part of something special, and Deuce sort of helps elevate it towards being, having that chance to hit that top 3 number. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, if you just if you flip Naeem Offord, which that's another one with a lot of the smoke starting to billow there as far as Auburn really having a chance. Michigan, with everything that's going on with Michigan, does that affect Andrew Babalola? And then now you have Deuce Knight. You possibly add Deuce Knight. Does that make him be able to jump in the class? Caleb Cunningham, very good friends with Deuce Knight. Alabama, I think, took a run at him at some point in time as well. So could that help with him? You flip those 3 guys, or you flip 2 and then add one of those, you're right there. You might be in the number 1 conversation.
It's insane. Everything you just listed off, it's not like it's a long shot thing. I think of everything you listed, the true long shot is Cunningham. I'm just not sold that that's going to happen. But hey, if you add Deuce Knight, it changes things, which is your entire point. But you talk about Deuce Knight flipping from Notre Dame. You talk about beating out Michigan for Babalola. It's just when you, and then obviously Offord from Ohio State, which then I almost think they'll flip Grady from Ohio State too, just to sweep the top 10. Because it seems like that's, I think there's a little bit of pettiness. I think there's a little bit of pettiness in this class, which I'm 100% here for.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing to think about it. I mean, we would have to, you remember like a year ago, or I guess 18 months ago, you and I, like, we'd get a 3-star dude. We're like, we'd really just have to like talk ourselves into it. And now all of a sudden it's like everybody in the country wants these kids that Auburn's bringing in. Just the stark contrast of what we've done since you and I have known each other to what we're doing right now. It's unbelievable. I mean, you were just listing all those things off like they were nothing. And it's like, we're talking about a 5-star offensive tackle, talk about the number 1 player in the state. And it's just, you're just listing them off like bullet points one after the other. And it's like, hold on, these are all really big things.
Yeah, and it's not pie, like you said, it's not pie in the sky type stuff. It's like it's literally like it only a couple of things go your way. And I'm with you. At one point in time, I would have thought Caleb Cunningham would have been the easiest of the 3, but he's kind of said a lot that makes you think he's probably pretty locked in. At Alabama. But again, like if Deuce Knight were to flip like we think, you just never know. And then it's hard to say. I keep seeing people say, I can't see it. Well, what does it take for you to have to be able to see it? When people say, I really would love Naeem Offord, but I just don't see it. Well, at what point do you start seeing it? At what point is it at least feasible that could possibly happen? Because I don't know what else Hugh has to do to show you that he's going to recruit his absolute you-know-what off 24/7. And if he wants a guy, dadgummit, there's a good chance he's going to get him.
Yeah. If Auburn lands Deuce Knight, flips from Notre Dame after getting Antonio Coleman and Derek Smith, and then if they flip Offord from Ohio State, and then like Blake would be not technically a flip from Ohio State, but as close as you can get. I mean, Alvin Henderson from Penn State. It's just, I mean, you're not just sending a message to Tuscaloosa. You're not just sending a message throughout the SEC. You're sending a message everywhere.
Yeah.
Saying like, no guy is off limits. We're going to come get them if we want them. And just over the course of a few classes, like, I just think that's really powerful.
Sure.
And Hugh Freeze and the staff, they're doing it.
Yeah. So flips are big. Like they're tough, but the way that the culture around recruiting is right now, it's sort of like, it sort of breeds flipping, I guess, if you know what I mean. Like, you're sort of, kids are committing not really to lock in, but to save a spot, maybe get a commitment bonus type thing NIL wise. So it sort of doesn't really, when you commit, it doesn't really breed that loyalty to the school. So it makes it a little bit easier to flip, but it's still a huge deal. I mean, you had 5 or 6 last year. You're already right there at that this year, and you're probably going to end up somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 total flips. It's crazy. Yeah, nobody is off limits. Like, when someone commits somewhere, don't melt down. Don't start like pooping on the kid on social media. That's what I'm telling you guys. Like, nobody is off limits. There is absolutely nobody that Hugh Freeze can't get, and has proven that he can go get those guys.
I'm going to cue you up for a rant. Do you mind if I do that? All
right, hit it. I'm nervous.
I'm going to ask Charlie 5 about the in-state narrative and how Alabama is trying to spin it. That's coming up in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Charlie 5, can you imagine going into a store, a physical store, and buying a part for your car, truck, or SUV?
It's just, you're just throwing money down the drain is what you're doing.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense because they're not going to have it.
No.
They're not going to, because they can't keep all the parts that everybody needs.
Exactly.
So they're just going to order it anyway, and they're going to charge you more for them doing the work of ordering. You just do it. Just order it at ebaymotors.com. They've got over 122 million parts for whatever vehicle you need. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Alabama is really trying to paint the picture that in-state recruiting is just no longer important. We're casting a wider net. We've got the number 2 class in the country. We don't need in-state guys. You disagree with this, as do most people with a working brain. But you've made some really good points on social media the last few days.
Yeah. So, all right. First of all, they didn't just start casting a wide net. Okay. So Alabama's recruited nationally basically since Saban really got going. Like, you can add Mark Ingram from Michigan. Like, you can think of different names from all over the place. Two from freaking Hawaii.
Right.
I mean, they've casted a wide net always, but what they've not ever done is not be able to land the top 100 players from in-state. That's not ever been a thing. Yes. And that's something I've continued to harp on over the last over 16 years. Alabama, there was close to 80 total players that were in the top 100, depending on which recruiting site that you look at. Alabama got nearly 50 of them, 50 out of 80. Auburn only got around 10. So the other 20 went elsewhere. So Auburn not only couldn't get those top 100 players, beat Alabama for those top 100 players, they couldn't beat other schools for those top 100 players. And then in the last 2 years, there's been around 15 or 16 total, and Auburn's got close to 10 of those. Now, granted, some of the ones that are committed now could flip. So I'm not saying like they're signed, sealed, and delivered right now. You still got to battle for those. But hey, you know what else could happen? Auburn could add to that number. If you flip Naeem Alford, depending on which site you look at, Zion Grady could fit in that criteria as well. So it's not just, yes, Alabama is able to recruit nationally. Their brand, I agree with the guy. Is it Luke Robinson? I agree with him. The
Locked On
brand,
Bama host Luke Robinson. Yeah.
The brand is big. The brand is nationwide, 1,000%. But you know what, Luke? It's always been. Okay, it's always been. It's not like just now you've decided, hey, we're going to go recruit out west. We're going to go recruit up north. We're going to recruit everywhere. No, they've been doing that, but they clean up the guys they got to get. They're playmakers. They're difference makers. They get those in state every single year, and this could be the first year ever that they don't get any of those in 2025, which is a big deal. I don't care where their class ranking finishes. It's a big deal.
They got an in-state guy committed in 2027.
Yeah, if it's not, that's another thing. It's not a huge deal. Oh, yeah, we don't care about in-state. It's not a big deal. Auburn reels off some 2026 commitments, reels off some 2025 in-state commitments. So immediately after Big Cat Weekend, Alabama reels off 2 commitments from 2 12-year-olds. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's no big deal. But
Sure.
we gotta push for 2 kids that are barely in high school to go ahead and pull the trigger that could flip 5 different times between now and when they graduate. That right there was that was a big indicator that, hey, we got to do something. We got to do something. We got to make some kind of shot back because this does not look good.
It doesn't look good, that's for sure. But the whole they lose Derek Smith to Auburn, he flips, and then they offer his brother. Like, that was another tell, I think, where it's just
huge tell.
Like, why didn't you already do that? Like, if he was a priority, like, why didn't you already do that?
Sure. And then Auburn turns around and offers him, and hey, he's 6'5", 200 pounds. Like, and why not? Especially if this thing goes through where scholarship totals go up to 105. Why not? Why not bring him on and let's see what happens? But yeah. That's another thing. Yeah. Oh, Derek Smith, it's no big deal. It's just an in-state guy. We recruit nationally, but let's offer his brother because we don't want to lose him. There's a perception thing that the Alabama realizes. Now, Alabama fans may sort of try to pretend it doesn't exist, but you can just look at the actions of the staff afterwards and what they've done. The offering of Eric Smith, the taking the commitments of 2 children from 2027. It matters to them. They can see it that it's a big deal because you can't just continue to rely on a nationwide net when you're in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 24/7 when you're not Nick Saban anymore.
Yeah, and I would imagine they'll feel pressure from that. I mean, just some of the big boosters throughout the state that's giving Alabama money. Like that, I think they'll go up to DeBoer and the staff and be like, "Hey, you're new here, but this can't ever happen again." There's going to be pressure felt from this. I don't care where they finish in the rankings.
Exactly, and that may be why they did the 2027 thing. That may be why they took those 2 commitments right away, which is just not smart this early in the game because you can do that with out-of-state kids, but in-state kids. What if they get hurt? Like, what if they end up not being very good? Like, you can't. It's hard to just cut an in-state kid scholarship because, hey, you're in state now. High school coaches stop trusting you. It's 2026 is one thing, but when you get to 2027 and beyond, like, you're taking a huge gamble, and the only reason you're doing it is to try to steal back a little bit of the narrative that, hey, we can recruit in-state.
Yeah, it's just amazing. The state school, the school is named after the freaking state of Alabama, and they're like, yeah, we don't care. It's fine.
Hey, one last. What
a crazy narrative that they're just running with.
One last point. A lot of people are saying, oh, you got to give DeBoer time. You got to give him time to create relationships. Well, from the same time that DeBoer was at Alabama till now, and you compare that to Hugh Freeze, the time he was at Auburn until now, Hugh Freeze had flipped Perry Thompson from Alabama, flipped DeMarcus Riddick from Georgia, beat out Joe Phillips or beat out Georgia for Joe Phillips. And then there's a couple others in state that he had already come in and worked in state that hard and won those. So it's not like
Bryce Kane would have been there by now.
Yeah,
Simmons would have been there by now.
Malcolm Simmons, like you landed a lot of the top in-state Alabama. Now Cam Coleman was a little bit later, but still.
You flipped Keldrick from FSU.
Yeah, that was a top 10 player. That was a top 100 player in the state of Alabama as well. Yep. That was on your half season. Exactly. So the whole give him time thing, like you got to get after it in state because Hugh's not slowing down anytime soon.
No, it almost seems like it's like a snowball. It's just that momentum's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Quick pivot just to wrap up the show, Charlie 5. Your biggest takeaway so far from fall camp? I know there hasn't been a ton, but what's your biggest takeaway? What are you most excited about?
I mean, it's hard not to be excited about wide receivers. I think Keandre Lambert-Smith seems to be the guy that they think they hoped he would be, and they're putting a whole lot of emphasis on him getting up to speed, with the coaching him extra almost on every single rep. And then just the size of the young guys, Perry Thompson, the size of Cam Coleman and their abilities. And then, hey, I've seen some pictures of Malcolm Simmons who looks like he's gotten jacked up and ready to go. He's no one to shake a stick at it, over 6 feet and I would imagine touching 190, 195 pounds. Like, these
Bryce
dudes are
Kane. I mean, let's say all the Freeze 4. Bryce Kane looks better now than he did in the spring too. I mean, it's a good situation to be in for sure.
Definitely excited about the ability, the potential of that wide receiver room. 1,000, like very, very excited about it.
I think it's gonna be the most common answer, and it's a good answer for sure. Charlie 5, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Absolutely. Follow me on Twitter, _Charlie_5, or you can catch me on the Top Button podcast every single day. Went live on Sunday night. Maybe that be a little time slot for a little Q&A session to kind of pencil in on your calendar. We'll see how that works out. It's been a lot of fun. So definitely that's where you can find me pretty much any message board or in the Locked On Auburn Discord.
Yep. Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.